You're listening to the Good Food CFO podcast, where we focus on financial strategies for building a profitable food business. I'm your host, Sarah Delavan. Today on the podcast, I am joined by Skyler Mapes. She's the co-founder of Exau Olive Oil, an internationally recognized award-winning olive oil company based in Calabria, Italy. Skyler is an amazing female founder who exemplifies building a business on your own terms. And in celebration of Small Business Month, she's sharing the origin stories of her business, lessons learned along the way, the vision that guides her decision-making, and you guessed it, we're also talking about finances. I am really excited for you to hear our chat, so let's get to it. Skyler, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
As I mentioned in the intro, you are the co-founder of Exau Olive Oil, which is an internationally recognized award-winning olive oil company with your husband, Giuseppe. And I read that he's a third-generation Calabrian olive oil producer who worked in the health industry for 15 years. And you're a third-generation Californian who has experience in the wine industry. So I'm so interested in how you all, number one, met each other. And then how did the idea for the olive oil company come to be?
Well, I'll start at the beginning, which is how we met. So my degree, and I guess you could say my stronger background is in architecture.
Oh.
And so I actually took an architecture internship in Barcelona in the summer of 2014. And I went to Rome just for the weekend with my roommate. And the second night there is when I met Giuseppe. And yeah, that's how we met.
Wow, I love that.
And we did long distance for a while. I went down to Calabria, I met his parents. Eventually he ended up moving to the US. We got married. And while we were living in the US in, I want to say 2016, Giuseppe was perusing the grocery store, like a high-end grocery store shelf in the Bay Area. And he was really disappointed with the selection of olive oil, especially the fact that there were no Calabrian olive oils. There was mostly northern regions of Italy, other parts of Italy. And he was missing the oils that he could get at home, the products that his grandparents and his parents made and what he grew up with. And so that is when he kind of came up with the idea of, okay, maybe we can start importing Calabrian olive oil. And I guess I should actually back up and say, before he came up with the idea, he wanted his mom to send him like 5-liter baths of oil, right? He's like, "Mom, could you please send me like a huge tank of oil?" And she agreed, and other people started asking us for oil, and that's kind of where he came up with the idea of maybe we should start importing oil, selling oil, and seeing what happened. And I was not with it. I was not on board. I didn't want anything to do with it because I was pursuing at the time a career in architecture. But I wasn't finding that very fulfilling. Mm. And so that's when I thought, well, maybe we can do something else.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Moms are so great, aren't they? I love how she's like, yes, I can send you lots and lots of olive oil. Totally. Now, did his parents grow olives and produce olive oil?
His grandfather and his parents.
Amazing.
So Giuseppe's grandfather was a pretty big farmer in our region of Calabria. And he grew a bunch of different plants like sugarcane, wheat, olives. They had a vineyard. He made wine. The olives were mostly used for curing and then also, of course, producing olive oil, but that's not what he would sell.
Okay.
So the olive oil was mostly something that they kept at home. It was something that maybe they gave to neighbors. If they had excess, they would sell it, but it was never at a commercial scale. Whereas
Gotcha.
the other plants that they would, or crops that they would grow, they would sell. And so it was a very different business model. And it was like the olive trees were never planted to use and create a business out of.
Yeah.
And that I think is why Exau is really special, because everything that has gone into, taking care of the olive groves over the past 100 years has never been approached in a way of let's commercialize this. It's always been like, well, these are olive trees. Let's take care of them as best as we can.
That's amazing. I don't know if you know this about me. The reason I got into food, primarily because I had acne and I was like, how can I get rid of this acne? And the dermatologist was like, eat good food and stay away from, cow's milk, things like that. But anyway, it catapulted me into like, where does all of our food come from and what is the quality of the plants, the soil, right? All of the things, like right back to the beginning. So I love that you're creating a product that has so much history and that really does come from sort of a loving, caring history. That's pretty cool and pretty special. So when you guys were exploring the idea to do this, did you fly to Italy and did you have to like have a talk with the fam and be like, we're interested in doing this?
I first went to work at the winery because I knew that if I did not like producing wine, I was going to hate producing olive oil because it's very similar. I mean, if you look at the equipment and the method and just the way that you move through both harvests for olives and for grapes, it's extremely similar process. So I thought, if I don't like dealing with all this equipment and the entire process of making wine, I'm not going to like making olive oil. So that's what I did first to make sure that it was something that could even be on the table.
Yeah.
And then after that, we started brainstorming, saving up money. And then he just had a conversation with his parents. And Giuseppe's mom had actually always kind of wanted to do something in agriculture. She'd always worked in an office. She's been retired now for a number of years. And she wanted to always kind of do something that went back to agriculture. And so she was all on board for it. And Giuseppe's dad, he was a little bit more, he's kind of he's a shy guy. And so he was a little bit more reserved about the idea. And then as we started moving forward, he was like, okay, this could be something. And now they're really happy with the way things have turned out.
Yeah. I love that you took like almost like a baby step into it, exploring winemaking. I think that's really, really smart. So many of us in the food space just feel like the passion and just this like urge to jump all in. And I think that restraint is pretty smart on your part. So I'm always curious, speaking of like jumping all in or showing restraint, did you guys have like a proper business plan and think through all the numbers, or like kind of what did that look like for you?
Yes and no. So Giuseppe actually wanted to present a much bigger plan and get some funding and create a really big olive oil company. And I'm really, really, really happy that didn't happen because I don't think that would have been successful. And I also don't think that it would have aligned with our principles and the things that we want in a high quality olive oil. It's just really hard. Like honestly, scaling in the olive oil industry is really challenging to do gracefully. And so it's best to start small. Having that big plan and then not moving forward with it allowed us to really hone in on things and make things much smaller. And that's what we did. We started really small and there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
Less risk. If something goes wrong, you're able to cover it much easier. You don't have to, sell out thousands and thousands of dollars. And you can test the market. And that's what we did. I mean, we imported, I think the first year, like maybe 3 pallets or 2 pallets of oil, really small amount. And we sold it all at markets. And then we fulfilled also like corporate gift orders. And we were sold out before the next harvest, which was great.
That's amazing. So everything you produced was imported to the US. I'm sure you left a couple bottles for the family back in Calabria. Yes.
They have tanks. That's it. Personal, like 50-liter tanks. Like, don't worry.
But so you import 3 pallets to the US and you will say start small farmers markets and corporate gifting. And then how long did you do that for? And then what was the next move?
So, I'm sorry. Let me back up because I forgot to go through the production process. We moved to Italy to start Exau in 2017 for fall harvest. And harvest is in end of September all the way through. It was actually really, really warm that year. So we ended up harvesting all the way through the end of November. And once we produced all the oil, we ended up decanting it, and then we bottled it, and then we labeled it, and then that's what we imported to the US. So it arrived in the US, already bottled and everything.
Okay.
And we primarily worked like those markets that I was telling you about. So there you go. We were missing that bit. Sorry,
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for filling that in. So how many years did that model?
Probably 2.5. I mean, we launched our online store a couple months after products arrived to the US.
Mm.
Like we haven't actively working, but we didn't have, I built the store. It was like in WordPress. It was,
Yeah.
learning experience.
Yeah.
And so that model, I want to say about 2.5 years. And we wanted to grow e-commerce because we knew that it was going to be really hard for us to get on the grocery store shelves. And also people just like wouldn't return our calls. Like the grocery stores didn't really want anything to do with us at that time.
Right.
And so how else were we going to sell our product? It was either in person, and after we met people in person, they could go and reorder online.
Yeah.
And so that was how we did things for the first 2.5 years. Then we launched our olive oil club in 2019. And then online sales grew quite a bit. We were on Amazon for a little bit. Then 2020. And to think of that jump from like November 2019 and working all those markets up through December 2019, and then thinking about March 2020 is weird.
Yeah.
It's crazy because the difference, we went from working a ton of in-person events to basically fully e-commerce within a number of months.
Right.
And thank God we already had things set up. So it was fine. Like we could do it. It just was not necessarily the plan to go 100% e-com immediately.
Yeah.
It happened a lot. It just sped up the whole entire process by like 2 years.
Right. So have you returned to markets, or are you now fully, I know you also sell through retail stores. There's a number of like boutique stores listed on your website, but are you back to market in addition to that?
No.
Yeah.
No. We were supposed to be in a couple markets 2021. We were going to be in some in 2022. And just honestly, with the way COVID has really stirred things up, we're not sure when we're going to go back to in-person markets. We would love to, but I just don't want to be in front of people leading full tasting right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. So has the word pivot was like so overused, right? Over the last couple of years, but I don't think it's a pivot if you already have your e-commerce site set up. It's a shift, right? Your business platform will say to another, but has it shifted the plan and where you're going to go from here?
Totally. I mean, we shifted from basically researching and finding as many in-person markets as possible and how to connect with people in person to how much effort and strategy can we put into digital marketing in order to sell more product. And so that was the biggest shift. That is where things change. It was a matter of like, where are we putting our energy? Where are we moving it from here over here? And so now moving forward, we are still figuring that out. Are we going to go back to in-person events? Are we going to onboard with major retailers? How does that affect our growth? Does it make more sense and is more profitable for us to extend more energy into marketing and then to grow our olive oil club membership?
Right.
Because when we sell direct to consumer, it's much more lucrative to us because we don't have to deal with distributors. We don't have to deal with grocery stores, but the volumes are lower. So that is a personal question of like, what battle do you want to deal with? What fight do you want to fight? What problems do you want to have?
Yeah. And
I think people go too quickly to, I want a distributor and I want to be in 20 retail stores within whatever, an 80-mile radius of where I am. It depends on what you want to do and what problems you want to have or you don't want to have.
I love that you're framing it that way. We talk about it here at Sarah Delavan Consulting in terms of building a business on your own terms and really creating a clear vision for what you want your business to be. And part of that is like, how do you want to spend your days? Right? What role do you want to have in your business? And I love, like you're saying just that, like, do I want to fight the battle of distributor and, or not? Do I want to have thousands of individual customers who are buying from us directly or fewer, direct accounts that will then sell through? Has it changed the vision that you have for the business in some way, or you're still figuring that out as well? It seems like maybe.
We are, but I do think that the core of Exau has always and will always remain the same. And that has a lot to do with just our stubbornness. We're really not good at compromising that. And that's not the part we won't be compromising there.
Yeah.
It's just no. We have certain values. We know when we can say yes, when we can say no. And also our product is not something that we can just go out and make more of. Like we don't make a syrup or jam or another type of product that can sometimes be almost an infinite amount of that product.
Yeah.
It's dependent on the olive harvest. And I can't go into the olive grove and like yell at my trees for not producing an olive. Like, you guys are being lazy. It's not going to work. So we produce a certain number of bottles, and that is what is going to be imported to the US, and that's what we can sell to consumers. And so if we don't have enough product for a retailer or distributor or whoever, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the situation. And I feel like we have gotten way too comfortable with having endless resources.
I agree. I want to ask you a pretty blunt question that you can answer or not answer. Are you able to produce enough olive oil to sell to be able to support you and Giuseppe to like not have to do anything else? Could it be the one thing you do?
Yeah. I don't want it to be the one thing that we do though. Right now we're writing a book. We're writing a book about olive oil.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's super fun. And I want to write. Like, I know that I want to write more books. I know that I want to start another business. I know I actually am thinking about dabbling in consulting myself to help other entrepreneurs with some of the things that I struggled with while I was building Exau.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about this a lot. I want to be a multi-hyphenate. I don't want to just be Skyler from Exau. There's a bunch of other stuff I want to talk about and do.
Yeah.
And share. But I feel like Exau was just one piece of me. And I've had to do a lot of reflecting. And that's also one of the reasons why I haven't been so forward on social media for the past like year-ish. Mm-hmm. I've been taking kind of a step back from posting so constantly. And so I can make space for that.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I feel like, why do we have to choose today?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. We shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Can we talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you had that you think could be helpful for other small business owners? Maybe just like one or two, or as many as you want to, because I think there's so much value in that for other people. So
one of the biggest pain points is your cost of goods and making sure that your margins are where they need to be, and fulfillment. Because warehouses, let me tell you right now, they will screw you. They will. It's not like if, it's when. So small. And every single CPG brand owner that I know, every single one is like, what is the deal with fulfillment? What is happening? Why is it like this? Why am I having such a hard time? Why does it feel like there's so many hidden fees? Why there's so many questions? And so that's actually something I'm exploring right now, is like, is there a way I can help small business owners that have direct to consumer products kind of get a better understanding of what's happening with fulfillment? Because the fees and just everything associated with warehousing can be extremely challenging. Yeah. And if you don't have the right vocabulary and you don't have the right experience to understand exactly what to ask them and to break down every single one of those invoices, next thing you know, you have already anticipated spending whatever $12 per order, and they're charging you $16.
Yeah.
And you're going negative $4 per order. And like, that seems small. It's not. It is not.
Yeah. I think you hit on something that's really important, is the vocabulary. I remember entering the industry as a buyer, and I'd been buying and like sourcing locally, right? So I'm dealing with farmers directly. Suddenly I dip into working with distributors, and there's shorthand and terminology and all of these abbreviations. I'm like, I have no idea what these things are. And no one is going to help you out, right? Like, no one from that distributor is going to be like, oh yeah, here, I'm going to offer you up this information. And I'm sure it's the same for fulfillment. Just going to let you figure it out the hard way.
It's like a slap in the face. once you get your first invoice and you're seeing all these surcharges for other things, and then you don't know what the shipping companies are doing, like you don't know what FedEx or UPS or USPS are doing.
Yeah.
Are there surcharges right now because of what's happening in the world? Gas prices are increasing. Is it holiday season? Like there's all these things that get tacked on. And when you're in the weeds, like you're dealing with marketing and you're trying to grow your business, next thing you know, you're like, whoa, we're spending like 50% more on fulfillment than we're supposed to, or on warehousing than we're supposed to. And it's really hard to reel things back in. And it's honestly, it's one of the reasons why a lot of CPG brands don't make it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And understanding your cost of goods, of course, always. You need to know how much things cost. Another really important thing when it comes to warehousing is like slippage and breakage. What are those percentages? Last year, we had really a lot of breakage with our brand and shipping, getting things to consumer. And we have a glass product, like high quality product. We have a limited number of products. So every time a bottle breaks, we lose money. And it's not a little bit of money, it's a lot of money because that adds up very, very, very quickly. So
and it's not just the lost
packaging
product, but then it's replacing the lost product, right? If it's like going out to a customer, it's doubling everything up. Wow.
Yeah.
I know from your Instagram, which I love to follow. And if people aren't following Exau, but also Skyler Mapes personal Instagram, which I'm a huge fan of. I know that you're a numbers person. I think you commented on one of my posts saying, I'm the same and my OCD is getting put to good use. And I love connecting over a love of numbers. But do you have advice or maybe words of wisdom for a business owner who's maybe afraid of spreadsheets or who's not looking at the numbers? Like, how often do you look at them? What are you paying attention to?
So I know what it's like. I know it can be really, really scary, but I read Get Good with Money last year by the Budgetnista. And it's a really good book. And I love when she talks about when people have to calculate how much money they're spending every month. And she talks about like, okay, get out the tissues, like get a glass of wine, like light some candles. That's what you need to do. You set yourself up to be in a comfortable space in order to face that reality, because you have to.
Yeah.
Like if you don't, you're going to fail. You're setting yourself up to fail. And I'm not saying that because I don't believe in you. I'm saying that because it's the truth. And that does not have to be reality.
Mm-hmm.
So get all your like comfort things together, that you need, and then sit down and get into it. And if you don't know how to get into it, do research into how to break down those numbers, go back and look at every single one of your invoices and calculate, okay, so I ordered 100 boxes and they cost this much. Does that match up how much I budgeted for the year? Or did you not even have a budget? How much did you budget for the thing that you're supposed to produce? If I make olive oil, if I make 100 bottles of olive oil, how much is that supposed to cost me? How much did I pay? How much are the packaging materials? How much did it actually cost to store all of that product? How much did it cost to actually ship that product? Did I budget properly for how much it actually costs to ship that product versus what, like make sure everything's aligned.
Yeah.
And if things are not matching up, then something's going on. Either you're overpaying for something, the budgeting for it overall is just incorrect, and you need to increase that, which would in turn result in an increase of how much your products cost. And you shouldn't be ashamed of that. That's weird.
Yeah.
It is weird to be ashamed of that because you're paying for something that you're going to be selling to someone else. There should be no negative emotions around that because you're allowed to make money. So
yes,
increase your prices if you have to. Like it's fine if it costs $5 to make something and you're selling it for $6 or $7, you need to increase your prices. We can't do that, girl. Like no.
I love they say don't be ashamed of that. I think there is so much shame around making mistakes, number one. And it's not even a mistake, right? You did the best you could. You maybe made a budget and you believed you had all the information. Things change. The fact that you're going back and looking at that budget again to see how did things pan out compared to my plan, that's a win right there. And the fact that you're identifying, oh, hey, I need to charge a little bit more for whatever reason, like that's another win. So I think there's only wins in the scenario. I was talking to a business owner the other day who was like, we have this budget, but we just spend money when we need to spend it on what we need to spend it on. And I would love to hear what you as a fellow food business owner would say to that business owner.
Okay, this goes back to like, how often are you tracking things and looking at it? You can do that for like a month and then see what happens. If you do that for a month and then you go back and you look at your budget, are you staying within the budget for each category? If you do that for a month, are you actually staying within your budget? And if you're not, then that means that you have to stay within your budget. Like, you can't just spend money willy-nilly. I understand, like, if you are under budget, that's fine.
Yeah.
That works. But if you're over budget, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you have to reassess. Either you're not being realistic with your budget, or you're overspending. And oftentimes people are not being realistic about what their budget is. They're expecting it to be much lower, and then in reality, it's actually much higher.
I totally agree with you on that.
That's not your fault. Like, there's no blame on you. It's just how much things cost and what you actually need to run your business.
Yeah.
And it was underestimated, and that's okay.
Yeah. And if you're checking in with it regularly and you discover, ooh, we underestimated what we were spending in marketing. Well, maybe where did you underspend, or where can you give a little bit that's not going to have a material impact on the outcomes of your business, right? So you can shuffle money around or, modify your spending. I appreciate hearing it from your perspective. I mean, I'm a former food business owner, but it hits different coming from a financial consultant than it does from a current food business owner, for sure.
And also, if you are in the thick of it, dealing with your finances right now, like, check on things every few days in the beginning. It's really important to track things extremely closely. Get obsessive in the beginning. And then after you've been really obsessive, or maybe for like 1 to 3 months, you can loosen up a little bit, check in once a week. Okay, things are getting out of control again. Go back to checking it every few days. And then once you kind of get your rhythm and you see where things are, you can really start checking in once every 2 weeks, and then eventually once a month.
Yeah.
But start micro. Like, it's not, don't bite off more than you can chew. Just start really small.
I love that.
It's going to be okay.
And I think too, a tip that I like to share is like, find whatever system works for you. There are certain tools that I like to use, but I always have the disclaimer, this is not going to be for everyone. When you get your like glass of wine or your candle, or your, in my case, coffee and my favorite blanket, and you're doing your numbers and you're not into it, then find a new system or rhythm.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I need buckets. Like, I need separate bank accounts for the different types of expenses that I have, because I like the visual of how much do I have in this bucket? And if I have an abundance of money and there's something I want to invest in, amazing. I'm going to go invest in it, shame-free. But if things are getting really tight and I notice that, then I can go micro in my budget and go, what is coming up next? And do I have enough to cover everything? Or do I need to kind of, make some modifications?
Well, I like breaking things down in an Excel spreadsheet, of course.
Obviously.
Ahead of time. And really make sure that all of your annual expenses are in there, because some things like insurance are billed annually. And if you divide that out into 12 months, that's going to be a regular quote unquote expense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that month is just not a more expensive month. That is a business expense that can be divided into 12 separate months. And so whatever, okay, that's $300 a month that I have to pay that goes to insurance. How much are you spending on your website? Does it renew annually, or does it renew monthly? Like, break everything down, and then you can see how much money you're spending throughout the entire year, evenly spread. And of course, don't forget to save money for taxes in a separate bank account.
Yes. We're recording this on tax day, and I'm on Instagram. I'm actually celebrating tax day. There's a photo of me like with a martini in my hand in my Instagram feed right now, because number one, if you have a profitable business, you have to pay taxes, right? So the fact that we're paying taxes means like we made money, and that is something to celebrate. But beyond that, like, number two is like, have money set aside. I felt so much pride and happiness when I would look at my bank account in like November, December, and there was a lot of money in there. It was more money than I had ever kind of set aside in my business ever before. And it didn't matter that it was going to taxes, because I had managed my money in a way that I had enough for everything that I needed, and there was enough money there for taxes. So we're celebrating that here. And I think that that's great advice. Like, it doesn't have to be a dreadful time. It could be a really celebratory thing.
It shouldn't. And I'm the same way. Like I put things aside. I also, I like to kind of compare myself to a squirrel, which is also something the budgetnista does. I love her. And I just like hide money for myself and I put it away and then I go into the other bank account and I'm like,
Yes.
and then it's like, wait, I already paid everything. It's fine.
No, I love that. I
You
have a
know?
totally separate bank account as well that just money gets like shuffled to and I don't look at it. And then, yeah, it's such a lovely present when you go in there. And honestly, that's what I do with my tax money. It just goes away and I don't see it. And so maybe once a quarter or once a month, if I'm going to go pull my statement for my bookkeeper, I see what the total has come to. And it's like I said, it's like a source of pride. You know, it's a really exciting thing. Love that.
No, it is. And this is why, again, it's really important to make sure that you're organized and you have a full Excel spreadsheet with all of your expenses and just get it down. Just start somewhere. Just get it all down on paper and then you can edit and tweak things later. But like, don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. It takes time. Yeah. Like I got really financially literate in 2021 and I made a decision of like, we're not going to be disorganized ever again. That's not happening. It's closed. Goodbye. That chapter is done. And I've never felt more comfortable and at peace and happy to pay money.
I love that. Yes. How about one more lesson learned? Do you have another one you want to share?
Just being kind, being a good person, being able to connect on a human level with your customers. It goes a long way and you don't have to work as hard as you would if you were continuously putting out just like regular old marketing content out there, building relationships. It's super important. People are bringing your food into their home. It's where they live with their family. It's where they prepare meals every single day for themselves. It's a very intimate space. And so I think that people being able to relate to you, connect to you, you being accessible to them is really, really important, and always being kind and gentle with your customers. Even if you get an email, really weird emails, just, respond kindly. We sometimes get weird emails and we just, respond really kindly. And
yeah.
That's it.
I think one of the things that I really loved as I was looking at your website in preparation for speaking with you is the product descriptions. Can I read a little bit of one? I copied and pasted it. Okay. So this is for the Turi olive oil, Turi. And it says the Turi is named in tribute to Giuseppe's father, Salvatore. His family called him Turi for short. Salvatore had always had a love for olive trees. When he retired early, he decided to plant the missing rows in, I'm going to say this wrong, Campagna. Sorry.
Campagna.
Thank you. With the local cultivar. And it just goes on to say, today, the trees range in age from 100 to 3 years old, planted by 3 different generations of farmers. I mean, how can I not buy the olive oil after I read that? Literally, when we get off the phone, it's coming to my house. I think that just that is a level of connection that you don't get with an olive oil that you're purchasing at the grocery store. And I think to what you're saying is build a relationship, have a connection, tell a story. That is, for me, that's it sold.
Yeah. Also, this is also really important for business owners. Make sure that you work with vendors that you actually like and that you can actually trust, because I cannot tell you, we have gone through a slew of brokers because we deal with imports. We have gone through several different brokers and we're finally with a broker who we adore. And I love calling them. I love having conversations. Most of the vendors, the US side that we work with, are in Texas. And I'm proud of that because we're now based out of Austin. And it just makes it so much more pleasant. It makes it so much easier to do business with them. If you ever have questions, they're happy to help you. You're happy to talk with them. And you never want to, I really try to avoid working with someone where when I get on the phone, I dread talking to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that space. And I think that energy kind of moves through your entire business and it makes your life so much easier.
Yeah.
Because you never have to have an unpleasant conversation. And when you do have to deliver bad news, it's much easier.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it echoes back to building a business on your own terms. It's your business. So why struggle through relationships? Why have to deal with people that are not making you happy or benefiting you and your company, right? Like if they're just taking your energy, yeah, that's not great.
I mean, it takes time. It took us 4 years to get to the exact team that we're working with now. But we know that we can always pick up the phone and ask anyone as many questions as we need to, and they're going to give us as much information as they know, and we feel cared for. And that's what you need, because when you feel cared for, you feel like you're in a really good space. It makes it so much easier to deal with your customers, your clients. It's just, life is so much easier.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that advice.
So I sleep so well now. Sleep so much better. Like 2020, no. Now 2022, Skyler sleeps like a baby.
I love it. You got your money organized. You got your team full of people you actually enjoy working with. I mean, you're living the dream. It feels like you're working on your olive oil book. And also you're eating a lot of delicious pasta, which I love to watch. You know, one of the things you mentioned, I think on Instagram as well, is that you all have been bootstrapping this business for 5 years. And I want to touch on that for just a couple minutes, because I think there are a lot of people in the CPG space in particular who will say, you got to get funding. You can't do this on your own. You can't bootstrap it. You must get an injection of cash from someone and somewhere if you want to go to the quote next level of your business. And I felt like maybe you would have some opinions on that. And I'm curious what they are.
Is this just so exhausting hearing this? I'm so over it. It's bullshit. Like, honestly, I'm so over this narrative. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like with you. Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about it right now. But with the masses, like, what are we doing? Why are we here? Why are you doing what you're doing? To just, scale it, grow it, make a ton of money. And then what? And then what are you going to do? What are you going to do then? What's the point?
Yeah.
And it just is, it doesn't make sense to me. I have a mission in my business. I have values behind my business. And I'm not trying to be the biggest, baddest olive oil company in the industry. I really don't want to be them, because I know what they do and I have zero interest in doing that. We have our customers who we love and adore, and they love our product. And that's who I sell olive oil to. I feel like this is a very capitalistic American way of approaching the food industry. It's like, let's just make everything Walmartable. Mm-hmm. And everything can't be Walmartable. We can't all be Jeff Bezos. And I really don't want to be Jeff Bezos. And also, we don't need a bunch of mini Bezoses running around, you guys.
No. Also, the dialogue seems to be that you're not successful unless your product has become Walmartable, which is something that I fight against every day.
I can't even, there's not enough words to describe how much I dislike that. And it puts an unrealistic amount of pressure on founders to hurry up and run out and get money. But guess what? When you run out and you get funding from VC, or you get angel investors, you're going to be back doing the same exact thing a year later, because they want a return on their investment. They're investing in you because they want more money. Mm-hmm. They want to sell the company. It's the 6 cycle. They invest. What's your exit strategy? Are you going to sell the company? Yeah. How are they going to get their money back? Okay, you have to get more investors in.
Yeah. It's a more situation that you get into, right? Because now you have shareholders, right? And shareholders want a return on their investment, like you said. I think too, even because a lot of people are using the word funding even to just describe going out and getting your own funding. So like credit cards, loans, lines of credit. And I think that's a dangerous mindset too, because you have to pay that back. So if you're a business, and we're not giving specific business advice here, I'm going to just put a disclaimer on that. Do what's right for your business. Look at your numbers. But if I'm looking at a business who's got $8,000 in debt service, and their strategy is to go out and get more money because they're not making enough top line revenue to cover the expenses in their business plus this debt service, that doesn't make sense to me. What is the plan? How are we going to now service this $10,000 a month or whatever the amount is? I think what I hope people take away from this is, number one, knowing that you can have a different opinion than what's out there in the world, right? Of like, get funding, get funding, get funding. Have your own opinion and do what is right for you. I think that's how I feel about it.
Also, I just had a conversation actually with a big retailer, and they have a program where they help small businesses either like get into their store, or they help them figure out the next step. And the director, her and I were talking about funding, and she's like, well, are you interested in funding? And I was like, no, I will never. I will literally, you guys, I'm not even kidding when I say this, like I will go head first into the ground, taking Exau all the way down in flames before I go out and get funding. It will not be happening because I don't want a boss, and I will never, ever have a boss again with this company. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And so she basically said, listen, I wouldn't go out and get any funding if I were you. We see these companies come through here all the time. It's always really interesting, and there's just better ways to do it. And I share that same philosophy. If you want to get VC funding, like, you know, do you. But I personally would not choose that for myself. And I would be really concerned personally about how that would affect my long-term health and stress levels, and also how that would affect the ways that I want to operate my business. There are really great angel investors out there. There are really great VC, you know, firms out there, but that's not how I envision growing our brand. And there's nothing wrong with growing slow and steady.
Yeah. I think there's a book I recommended on social media, and I'm going to plug it here as well. It's called Small Giants. And the thing I really love about the book is that every business owner, now these businesses are big, they're $1 million businesses, right? They're not making a couple $100,000 a year, but their commitment has been to creating something really special and growing in an organic way, not just bigger, faster, you know, more money. And something that all of them have in common is maintaining ownership in their business, and doing it for the reasons that are right for them. Danny Meyer is one of the people who's mentioned in the book. And of course, his company, the Shake Shack, they have gotten funding. And, you know, that's sort of a different model, but even to that, he speaks very interestingly about the why and the who, and all of that. But I think, you know, I'm repeating myself, but I think that's okay. Do what is right for you, build a business according to your vision. And if you're like Skyler and having an investor would stress you out, don't do it, and don't feel like pushed to do it, I think is the thing. I think a lot of us feel pulled or pushed into doing certain things that aren't right for us. That's happened to me.
Yeah.
Expensive
and you
lessons.
don't have to do it just because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so I actually used to listen to How I Built This by Guy Raz.
Yeah.
On is it
NPR, I think,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. So I used to listen to that podcast almost every single day before I left my day job to like dive full time in the Exau. You guys, I was committed. And the things these entrepreneurs did to get their businesses off the ground are insane, incredible. We so often underestimate our own power and courage and the things that we're willing to do to ensure that we're able to succeed. And listening to those stories was amazing, incredible. I mean, especially Sarah Blakely's stories. Now, yes, she has sold part of Thing, but she didn't have funding in the beginning. Neither did Hendra Scott. Mm-hmm. Also, what's his name? The shoe guy, not Cole. Is it Kohan?
Not sure. He's a clothing shoe person. Yeah.
Okay. One of the shoe guys, he had gotten the funding and realized, oh, this is a big mistake. Got into a whole bunch of debt to buy back like a certain percentage, a large percentage of his company, brought it fully back under ownership, and he went through the bank.
Wow.
To get full ownership. And I'm not, you guys, this is not like, let me just get a loan of $2 million. It was like a $40 million loan, like something really big, you know? And now he owns 100% of his company, and he's like, we're never going back there. We're not doing that. That will not be happening. That's it.
Yeah. I think I could sit here and talk to you for such like such a long time. I'm really grateful for number one, what you're producing, but also what you're putting out into the world via social media. I think for better or for worse, one of the things that I really do appreciate is the ability to connect with humans and to actually be social on platforms like Instagram. It's how I got connected with you in a somewhat organic way. And I just love seeing what you're up to, the highs, the lows, the frustrations. And I think woman to woman and business owner to business owner, it's like really good to see those things so that we all know that we're not alone. So I just wanted to say thank you for putting it out there. I think it's really helpful.
Oh, well, thank you. And
So
thanks for having me today. This has been so fun.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, for those who may not be following you yet on Instagram or who maybe aren't familiar with your olive oil yet, can you just share where they can learn more and where they can find you?
Yeah, so we're on all social media, including TikTok now.
Yes.
At Exau, so that's EXAU olive oil. And then if you want to get some oil, go to exauoliveoil.com. And if you want to follow me personally, it's skylermapes.com. So SKYLERMATES.com. And then that's also all my social media handles. And you should actually follow my personal on TikTok because I'm out here acting a fool and it's really fun. I'm having a great time.
I think I need to get a TikTok account. I don't have one currently.
It's so fun. It is so fun. Do it.
Amazing. Well, Skyler, thank you again. I so appreciate you. And hopefully I'll see you on TikTok really soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you haven't yet, please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing to this podcast. It's the number one way that you can show your support for the show and help us reach more food and beverage business owners. If you'd like to continue the conversation, join us in the free Profitable Food Business community. You can grab the link to join in the show notes.